Hey guys, I've been saying for a while that I'm going to make a tutorial video showing how my modules and Evil Portal can all work together to get you access to a system, and I finally found the time to do it. So in this video, I'm going to start by showing you how to create certificates for both Curse Screech and your payload using papers. Then I'll move on to cloning a captive portal with the payload or injection set using Portal Auth. We'll deploy our payload to our victim using Evil Portal, and I'll also show you how we can use Portal Auth to force the victim to authenticate, which of course forces them to use the payload. And finally, we'll gain access to the box with Cursed Screech. Alright, so starting over in papers, I'm just going to create a couple of certificates for Cursed Screech and the payload. So I'll name the first one payload, and I want to export it to a PFX. So I'll just give it a password. Okay, and now the next key that we're going to create is for Kuro. We're not going to encrypt that one. And that's going to be used by our Python script in Curse Screech to actually connect to the target. Okay, now I want to download our set of payload keys. So we're going to use that a little bit later. We'll head on over to Curse Screech, and you'll see there's a couple new options in here. So the first one is the listening interface. You can select on which interface sign will listen. So if you expect targets on the Pineapple network, you'll choose the bridged LAN interface, and that's going to be the one that you use probably 99% of the time. And then any other device that you have attached to it, so WLAN 2 or even more that you may have, you can select those and it'll listen for targets on the network to which the Pineapple is connected. So down here we also have a checkbox that says use Portal Auth for authorization, and what that does is it adds some code into the payload that forces the payload to interact with Portal Auth to authenticate, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But first we're going to select our keys, and it's very important that you click save, otherwise the code won't be updated in the payload. So we'll do that. We'll download the payload, and now I'm going to create a new Visual Studio application or project. I'm just going to use the defaults here, and I'll call it Secure Network Client. Now I'm just going to do the same things that I showed in the first Curse Screech video. I'm just going to copy the code out and put it into the namespace over here. So we got to make sure that we put our password in for the key. And I'll change this since my namespace is different. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do is copy over the Pineapple modules class into the project, extract my keys, and put that PFX in the project as well. And another very important thing is to make sure that the build action for that PFX is set to embedded resource. Next we'll add the application manifest file. And we'll change this to require administrator. And finally, I'm just going to add a button to this interface. I'll make it huge. I'll call it generate key or generate access key. And I'm going to link it to this method, this access key button click. So I'll head over to events, and for click we'll just paste that in, save the form. Okay, now we need to make sure the Pineapple modules file is attached to this so that it can actually reference these classes. So in the old Curse Screech video you saw just this code, but in this new one I've added some stuff to the Pineapple modules namespace, which is actually now different. That used to be Cursed Screech as well. And we have this PA authorization class, and that just allows us to interact with Portal Auth. So it'll reach out when the user clicks the button to generate an access key. It'll reach out to Portal Auth and it'll generate a key for them, send it back, and that's what's going to allow them to gain access to the network through Evil Portal. So let's go ahead and build this solution. And I guess I can start sign now. So the next thing we'll do is we'll head over to Portal Auth, and I'm going to copy this Starbucks site like I always do in my videos. So we'll save that. We're going to clone it, and we're going to use the payloader injection set. Alright, it looks like our portal cloned successfully. So now let's head on over to Evil Portal. You can see it's in there. I'm going to go ahead and activate it. And I'll start the captive portal. Back in Portal Auth, under Payload, I'm going to start my server. And in the newest version, you can download the C# Payload API, and it includes the same API that I showed you earlier. And it'll include just a sample application for interacting with Portal Auth. Alright, our server's listening. Now this is the only part that is not so automated. So you need to SSH into your Pineapple, and under the www directory you need to create a download Windows directory, and that's where you're going to place your payload. Now this is an old one, but I'll show you real quick where that's hard-coded, so if you want to change it you can. So we'll go under injection sets and we'll edit and go to the payloader injection set, and it's right here in inject HTML. So you can change it to whatever you want. In the future I plan on doing some PHP magic up here in inject PHP to have it just kind of auto populate that link with whatever is in your download directory. And hopefully one of these days I'll figure out how we can upload payloads from this module directly like I could on the Mark V. So for now though, we'll go ahead and do it manually. So we'll go in here, and I'll copy my payload over. I'm going to change its name to netCLI. And real quick, let's just make sure that we have everything running that we need. So our PAS server is running, Evil Portal is running, and in Cursed Screech, sign is running. Perfect. So now I've got a VM over here that I can use to test. I'll connect them to the open interface on the Pineapple. And let's just start by going to forums hack5.org. Cool. So you can see that it brings up our captive portal, and they're not able, I mean, they can click on these things, but they're not able to get behind the page or get behind this little box. And they're required to use an access key to get access to the network. So let's go ahead and download the network client, and we'll run it. And you can see that instantly sign picked up on the payload, on the target. So now we'll go ahead and generate an access key, and let's go over to Portal Auth to show that. So you can see that a new target was acquired, and in previous Portal Auth videos you would see a port number show up there, and that was when you used the, or when we used the actual Python payload, or the OS X Python payload, and that's when that payload was functioning both for authentication and as the remote shell. But now that we're using Screech for the remote shell, you'll just see that show up as 0. So we have our access key 28780. I'm just going to write that down real quick so I don't forget it. Alright, now I just want to show you something real quick. I have another VM here that runs slightly slower. And I'm going to connect this one to the Pineapple as well, and bring up the same page and use that access key to see if I can gain access to the network with it. So we'll do the same thing, forums.hack5.org. And our access key is 28780. So when I submit it, it says it's an invalid access key. So I just wanted to show you guys real quick that these access keys are tied to each individual target. So it's just one other way to kind of guarantee that each system will download this payload. They will authenticate with Portal Auth, and that will guarantee that you can gain a connection through Screech, so people aren't sharing keys with each other, all of that stuff. So we'll put it in here, submit, and we've been authorized successfully. Now let's go back to Screech, and I'm going to fire up Kuro to connect to our target. Now at this point, my goal is going to be to gain access to the system and kick out the other user so that they can't get back in. The first thing I want to do is I want to do a little bit of recon on them, so I'm going to use the get ps version command just so I can see what version of PowerShell they have. So they've got version 5, so it's new. I know that I can do newer things. I have more options. I can also get some system information. I can see what updates and patches have been applied to the system. I can see that it's Windows 10 Professional 64-bit. I can see the computer name, the version, so just some useful stuff. But I'm going to clear that log now. So first thing I want to do is I want to add a new user. I'll just call him KBGB. And I'll give him super strong password. Okay, so we can see the user was added. Next, I want to enable remote desktop on the system because I'm going to want to gain access to it over that. And we can verify that it was good. And now I'm going to add my new user to the remote desktop users group. Did it do it? Okay. And you can also add them to the administrator group. Alright, perfect. So now, let's see, we could fish for credentials for the current user as well. We can see that this popped up, this little window. This says Windows PowerShell credential request. Windows requires your credentials to continue. So they put in their password, send it back. We see that, we see that their username is throwaway. And there's a few other ways that we could get that username just by adding a new easy command here. So we wouldn't have to be so noisy by requesting credentials. But now we know their username, so let's go ahead and change their password. And it's not complex or anything, but it's something that they won't know. So we can see that completed successfully. Now, if we try to log in over remote desktop, it's going to alert them and tell them that I'm trying to log in. So let's just go ahead and log off. At this point, we're going to get noisy. And you can see the connection was closed because the user logged off. So now we'll fire up MSTSC, and I'll do 174. We'll log in as KBGB. And we're in. So now we have access to the system. The other user is completely locked out of it. Of course, they still have physical access to their box, so they can kind of do what they want. This was kind of a noisy way of getting in, but of course you can probably think of better ways to get in with using these same modules, these same steps that I went through, just maybe using some different easy commands and just gaining access that way in a more quiet way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been saying for a while that I was going to do one with all the modules together to show how you can gain access to systems. Come up with your own ways, your own easy commands. Feel free to share them. Hit me up on the forums or on YouTube or on Twitter. So thanks for watching, guys.